Hey guys, it's Val. Welcome back to my channel. It's 9:20. I am on my way to the DA's office to present a speech in regards to my sexual assault or rape that took place November 1st, 2015. So I was exhausted after coming back from New Jersey, but I really wanted to, live life to the max and enjoy these last few summer days that I had in Atlanta. So I actually ended up going to my first Atlanta Braves game. It was HBCU night, and me and my friends had a key. We was out there in the stands acting like we knew what was going on. Drinks was flowing. And then after that, we got on this bike contraption thing, acting crazy, looking crazy. I was looking like Holiday Heart, y'all, okay? Look at me. On my back, holiday, okay? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Went to different bars, had such a fun night. And then a couple weeks later, my sister came for her birthday. It was Labor Day weekend. And we pretty much went to spots that I've been trying to go to since I came to Atlanta. We went to the High Museum. It's a museum with a lot of art that they actually have parties every Friday. Then I went to dinner at Botsy's. Food and drinks are really good. They have dancers and they do things for the birthday girls or a celebration. So definitely good vibes, aesthetic. I would definitely recommend it. After that, we went to an African club called Living Room. That's definitely a vibe. Friday and Saturdays, I recommend Saturdays to go. Amy did a pool party and brunch. I was really all right, I'm starting to really enjoy Atlanta. But I didn't even know I was going to have to go back to New York, y'all. I got an email, and although I was loving Atlanta, New York was calling. Okay, guys. It's Val. I'm back. It is 9:19. I just got out of work in a rush because I have to catch this 9:26 flight to go back to New York. I packed my bags from the night before, so that way I won't have to check in any bags. It is almost 8 o'clock. My flight's at 8:26. I think the airport is 15 minutes away. Because I'm not checking in any bags, I should be good. All right, so to the airport. So I've made it to New York. It's 11:30, 11:40. It's time to get my bags. They made me check my bag in. Out to Brooklyn we go. Let me go get my damn bags. My sexual assault or rape that took place November 1st, 2015. This was Halloween night 2015. I was actually really excited because Halloween was one of my favorite holidays. And honestly, I was just excited about life again. I had just really started my nursing career. I was finally getting over a terrible, horrible breakup. And I just came back from a Jamaican vacation. Life was looking up and I was excited to see where I was going. But what I didn't realize was it was going to take a terrible turn that night. And after this picture, I didn't post anything for a year. I became a ghost on social media and in real life. Heading to give a speech to document my experience, more so just to talk about my experience of being sexually assaulted and raped, but more so to talk about how the NYPD didn't really investigate after I reported my assault. And so the NOW organization has taken a stand, or part of their mission is to help sexual assault and rape victims be vindicated I just received justice and fair treatment. I'm here just to detail my experience to the DA. So there's a new DA in New York. This new DA for Jane is really trying to take a stand. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really in the bike lane. This is the shit that's in New York. She said they're really making an effort to try to do a better job of investigating cases. I'm here to explain, along with 2 other survivors, about our experience. Maybe they can see where they fell short and make a change and make a difference. I'm actually very excited that I'm getting the opportunity to do this. And it's crazy that I've never met Jane. We've talked on the phone and we have emailed for years. So to be honest, I feel like when I'm see her, because I'm a crybaby, I want to start crying. Because she really helped me a lot.
Stopped coming. Well, when the pandemic hit, she really
yeah, I'll have to sit down and really tell you guys the story. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gotten any protection. I'm just grateful for her. I'm excited to meet her. And then afterwards, we're actually going to go to a reading for a playwright about a actual sexual assault case. And they just want to get our feedback. So it's going to be kind of like interesting, but maybe very emotional. So my face is not going to look like this, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just happy to be here. One of my missions is to help people like me or people who haven't been helped or who are survivors. The DA's office. Let's go. So I finally arrived at the DA's office. I was super excited because finally I was going to meet Jane and I was going to connect with other survivors. But I was also like hella nervous because I'm like meeting the Manhattan's DA. And then on top of that, when we get up there, it's not only the Manhattan DA, it's like everybody in the DA's office. Chief of Special Victims Unit, Chief of Human Trafficking, Chief of DEA, Chief Executive, like everything. So I was like, yo, I'm like, they're really serious. Like, they really want to help. Like, they really mean business. But you know what? I mean business too. And I want y'all to hear my story. November 1st is still the worst day of my life. Waking up naked in a hotel with no memory of how I got there is one of the worst feelings I've ever felt. I really thought I had reached the lowest point in my life. But nothing was worse than waking up every day afterwards, knowing and feeling that I had no one to help me. I thought to myself, I didn't die, but I wish I had. After no help from the police and searching for survival groups to no avail, I felt helpless, hopeless, bare, and as naked as I did when I woke up in that hotel room. Because every day I felt exposed. Every day those internal wounds of pain and shame continued to bleed with nowhere to get out. Every day I knew that there was a possibility my attacker could strike again because he had gotten away. I was left again, this time not by my attacker, but by a system that we are told is supposed to protect us. Halloween 2015 is a day that I will never forget. Except for the moments that were stolen from me. My friend and I went out for what I thought would be a fun-filled night of dress up and dancing, but instead it turned into a night of horrors. We went to a Halloween party at a well-known location in the city. We ordered drinks, met some guys at the bar. They offered us another round, and we accepted. We were all laughing and joking, and the next time I blinked, I was lying face down on my stomach, naked, with only my thigh-high boots on. I was awoken by the ringing of the room phone, with the maid telling me I had to leave because my time was up. I was so confused, I could only remember my last moments with the gentleman at the bar. I had no recollection of how I had arrived at the hotel or motel or my time there. It's then I realized I had been drugged. When I was finally able to get in contact with my friend, with his help, I went to the hospital, the local precinct, and I was actually transferred to Brooklyn Special Victims Unit, where I reported my assault. My friend and I reported as much as we could. I gave them the locations that we went to, the hotel, even the potential number of the assailant. I even attempted a recording call with the assailant in the precinct, but he didn't answer. I was told they would investigate and was given a card by the reporting officer. I actually really did have hope, After that day, though, I never really heard from him. I called him several times, left voicemails. I even went back to the precinct myself to try to speak to him. Knocked on the door, and literally nobody answered the door. It wasn't until May 18th, 2016, that I got a voicemail from the officer telling me to call him back. And I was like, oh, okay, this is exciting. Something's happening. But when I called him back, it was only for him to tell me that the DA's office didn't think they had enough evidence to pursue my case. I asked if he ever went to the motel. He said no. I asked if he went to the location of the party or contacted the promoters because I gave him the flyer. He said no. I asked if he tried to contact the assailant again. He said yes, but the person never answered the phone. The DA, when I asked why he didn't follow up on the information I provided, I was again told the DA didn't think it was enough to investigate. I realized then that my closure would not come from receiving justice in the eyes of the law. Even worse, the following Halloween, I was met with harassing text messages from the assailant that said, I miss fucking you on Halloween. I literally felt like I was in a nightmare that I couldn't escape. People don't understand that when you are raped or sexually assaulted, you lose a part of yourself. That person takes a part of you, and it's your job to bring it back. It's your job to make yourself whole again, not that bastard that took it away. He doesn't care, but you have to care enough to heal yourself and to bring yourself back again. But honestly, when you're that exposed, that naked, and you feel that low, me, and many others are just trying to care enough to get out of bed and do day-to-day things. We need advocates and those willing to fight to help make us whole again. Because I may not have died physically, but internally my soul had died. If it wasn't for Jane, who was then working for the NOW organization and SAVI organization, I wouldn't know that it wasn't my fault. I wouldn't know that I'm worth the fight. I wouldn't believe that I could still live the life God has promised me, even after what I had been through. If it wasn't for these organizations, my assault never would have been investigated. Instead, another piece of paper on the bottom of the pile. With the help of Jane and other lawyers at the NOW organization, I was at least able to have harassment charges filed and a restraining order placed on my assailant. Back then, I wished I had died because maybe then my case would have been investigated. I honestly think that's only when they care. But I know there is no real Olivia Benson, but all it takes is at least someone who cares. In this moment now, not only am I wishing, but I'm fighting for the rights of victims who have not received justice. And unfortunately, those to come. Because if I don't, who will? Will you? So once I finished giving my account of what happened, the other survivors also told their stories. And it's so crazy because although we never met each other, never spoke until that day, we're all from different walks of life. We all had a lot in common, especially in regards to our cases. One, we're all professionals, and not that that necessarily means anything, but let's just keep it funky here. We all know when it comes to people who are underserved, immigrants, prostitutes, those who are homeless, have criminal pasts, drug addictions, ethnic people, black, whatever. We all know that sometimes when it comes to law enforcement, those people their voices are not heard. I'm 203 of those names that I just named, okay? So it was refreshing to feel like, you know what, I feel like they're actually going to listen because they know that we take life seriously. That was number one. Number two, we all did pre-text calls. It's a supervised call with law enforcement, with the cops right there, and they basically have you call your assailant in hopes that they'll incriminate themselves over the phone. And you have to do it like before the assailant even knows that there's potentially a case. But what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that these are all control calls where they're supposed to actually been like prepped for the call. None of us were prepped for our calls. Literally, we're told to do it like right then and there, which is honestly terrifying. Imagine you're getting on a call with somebody who raped you, who stole from you. Like, it is terrifying. You don't know whether or not they're going to be honest or not. And so you may not even know what to say. I was so scared. So honestly, I was happy that the person did not even answer the phone. And just imagine like, yo, what am I supposed to say when I call? Hey, how's it going? I don't fucking know. In some states, you're supposed to it's court mandated, like before you even do the call. Just like you see in Special Victims Unit, where they coach a victim or survivor before they go on the stand. That's what they're supposed to do before you make that call. It was done for none of us. Number two, there was no investigation done in any of our cases. One of the survivors, she was actually a lawyer, and she had to hire a private detective. In my case, for instance, just like the another survivor's case, she was taken from the city all the way to Brooklyn. So y'all mean to tell me there are no cameras, there's no witnesses that y'all could look at to see how the hell we got from one borough to the next? In my case in particular, I remember waking up because the maid woke me up, super confused. And I was like, when she said, your time is up, I was like, what does she mean my time is up? I'm like, I didn't understand that. I got dressed. Fortunately, the bastard left my cell phone and my purse. My identification was still there. My money was still there. So I'm like, okay, he didn't try to rob me. Like, I don't even know what the hell is going on. So I go to the front, the receptionist, I said, hey, whose name was on that room? We don't have a record of it. I said, what do you mean you don't have a record of it? I said, who paid for the room? It's gone. Excuse me? So then I asked her, I said, what do you mean my time was up? I said, well, how was it paid for? I was like, how does this work? She was like, you only pay for time here. And so that's when I realized, I was like, oh, this is a place where people go take prostitutes. Like, you don't stay for like a day or two. You're really only staying for a time. So that made me even feel even worse and low. And then I'm looking at text messages from my friend, like, Val, where are you? I went to the bathroom and I got back, you were gone. And I have never, when I say never, till this day, I'm 36, I've never left the club to go with no nigga. Never, ever, ever in my life. Never done it. And I remember everything about that night up until I woke up in the hotel room. I remember everything that I drank. I remember every single thing. And when I walked out of that motel, I was like, I'm back in Brooklyn. And I only knew because there was a BJ's that was like right by my house that I actually go to. So then it made me think, I was like, wait, has this nigga seen me before? Does this nigga know me? I called my friend, I'm like, yo, what happened? And he was like, I don't know. I came back and you were gone. I was like, was I high? Was I drunk? And he was like, no, you were fine. We were chilling, talking. I don't know what happened. I was like, was anybody around us? Were we talking to anybody? He was like, no, because I remember we met these African guys and they were gay. And my friend was gay too. So I don't meet openly gay Africans that often. And so I remember having this conversation. I even exchanged numbers. And he was like, after that, we went up, you got us in the VIP and we were just chilling. And then he said, I went to the bathroom. I came back, you were gone. And I'm like, even him telling me that, I don't even remember that. I don't remember us going to VIP. All I remember is speaking and talking to those guys. When we told our accounts, I thought they were really going to investigate. I thought they were going to go back to the motel because I'm like, obviously there's cameras. Another thing that we all had in common was that all of our sexual assaults were drug facilitated. And, for me, I don't really know how much it affected me, except for I lost my memory, so I don't remember anything. Both of the women describe literally a feeling, they use the words euphoria. And sometimes what these drugs do is that they make you act, they give you a sexual heightened feeling, this happy feeling. And it doesn't appear that you're actually like, it appears like you're having fun, that you're happy, that you know what's going on, and that you're like, woo, like you're loving life, all those things. Because one of the women actually had video of her going into the hotel, one of the guys. She was like, that's me. And she was like, but you can't even tell that I'm under anything. She's like, I looked like she was all over the guy. She's like, honestly, she's like, I couldn't even control it. The other female, she woke up, and how she even found out what had happened to her was because the hotel staff had actually called the cops on her because she was going crazy in the hotel lobby. After the man had raped her, he left her in the hotel lobby where she went crazy, was going up walls, scratching and causing damage. They called the cops on her. She was taken on a stretcher, was trying to attack the ambulance, and then she woke up in Brooklyn. The other female or survivor that wasn't able to make it, she actually went blind. She met a guy, blind date, on a website, one of these dating sites. They went out, had a drink. She said the same thing. Felt euphoria. She kissed a guy. First date, never done that before. Next thing you know, she wakes up naked, bleeding, no vision. Her case is still pending as well because there's a lack of investigation. So you mean to tell me that there's no proof, there's no evidence, there's no nothing? Because what people don't understand, it is very difficult to prosecute drug facilitated. It's difficult to prosecute sexual assault, rape in general, because it's that person's word against whoever. But drug facilitated especially because you're under the influence. And you have to prove that you are incapacitated, that you were unconscious, and that you weren't able to make a decision on your own. But what hinders the investigation, or sometimes what hinders the police, is that sometimes these drugs, there's so many of them, is not just the GHB, the common drug, that rape drug that they use now. They're using drugs that you can't even recognize in a drug screening. Like, they don't even test for those kind of drugs. And they're immediately out of your system. It's like there was nothing there. And on top of that, you have to prove that you were raped. I don't know how you would need to prove that I was like unconscious or I didn't know what was going on. You know, it's hard to do that when you don't really know what's going on. And then leading up to it as well, they're like, well, why would you put yourself in that situation? Well, I'm just going out on a date. I'm just going out with my friends. How would I know that this was even going to happen? So then you start feeling like it was your fault that you put yourself in the position when at the end of the day, there are people who are predators. There are people who are fucking sick. Doesn't matter what I wear. Doesn't matter how I dress, how I say something, present myself. I could be a child or an elderly lady or disabled. People will do what the hell they want to do because they have sick minds and they're disgusting. So that is not going to be my cross to bear. And it took me a very long time to even recognize that. That shit didn't live over here. After we all gave our accounts of our personal experiences, I was actually very overwhelmed with the DA's response, and in a positive way, because they all were genuinely concerned and upset for the circumstances surrounding our case and how we were treated by law enforcement, especially the pretext calls, because they made it very clear that that is not how calls are supposed to be made. Your release is not supposed to be done on the spot, and you're supposed to train the victim in what to say and how to say it. Or not to say anything at all. They literally just told me to call and then see what happens. That's not how it's supposed to go. And then what if the person lies on the phone? We wouldn't get in an argument with them and they hang up and then that's an investigation. Literally, it was just fucked up. But then what we also did discuss was some of the things that we felt besides the pretext call as victims, what the cops could have done. And honestly, most of it was just actually investigating. Like, there's no reason or no way how me and the other woman were able to get from one borough. Mind you, Manhattan and Brooklyn, and depending where you're in Brooklyn, it could be, listen, it's a whole nother borough. Okay, if you know New York, that's a whole other fucking borough. People from Brooklyn don't go to the city. People from the city don't go to Brooklyn like that, okay? And so for us to end up in different boroughs, you guys don't have any witnesses. You guys don't have any car receipts, cap, like nothing. You guys don't have anything. They never went to any of the places or locations that we provided to them. And looked, just no investigation was done. And what honestly hurt the most was the attitude of the officers. It was all men. When you host any victim, this is where you ask some questions, right? Are you okay? Tell me what happened. Instead, I was met with, well, were you drunk? Did you know the assailant? If you knew the assailant, you sure you didn't want it? You sure you didn't act? Like, all the questioning was very accusatory. And the attitudes were very lackadaisical. There was no sense of urgency, no sense of compassion. I don't want to get too detailed about the other survivors' cases because they are still pending. But what I will say is that the only reason why they are still pending to this day is because of their dedication to seeking justice. Their cases all happened years ago. But if it wasn't for them being persistent and finding Jane and organizations like Now and We Justice, there's no way that our cases would have been able to push forward, or in my case, like mine, reopen. It's very difficult to prove drug-facilitated sexual assaults, let alone a sexual assault or rape. We were able to come up with a plan and training and just actual effort and caring. Then we may be able to make some headway in helping survivors and victims. I was pleasantly surprised with the response, but even more so afterwards. I mean, we took pictures, and again, I can't show all the pictures because of protection for the survivors and those in the DA's office. But a few weeks after our meeting, the chief officer of the Special Victims Unit actually reached out to Jane and gave her a detailed report of the steps that they're taking to train officers on how to prosecute in drug-facilitated sexual assaults. And he actually even suggested possibly using us as facilitators or help. And so, like, honestly, my mind was blown when she told me that because, for a long time, I thought that I had felt justice after getting the sexual harassment and restraining order against my assailant. But to be honest, hearing that, and I was going to be able to help other victims, I was super excited that they were actually taking a valiant effort. And I really hope and pray that it doesn't just stop there, because, sometimes people will give you talk, they'll say things, but they're just saying it to say it, but they're not really going to do anything. There is no call to action. But it was the fact that not even a few weeks later that they already were making plans to set something in place to change the narrative. And it also includes survivors that can actually say, like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Or as a survivor, that wouldn't work for us. Or as a victim, that wouldn't work. That would make you feel uncomfortable. And so I'm really hoping and praying that I'm able to truly make a difference. Sometimes things happen to you, you don't know why they happen to you. And I think part of the reason why I did experience this was so that I could help others who don't have a voice, who are scared to talk about it, and just to change the narrative. After we left the DA's office, we went to the writing of a screenplay. And it was put on by the Joyful Heart Foundation, which is, lo and behold, crazy, right? Run by Olivia Benson, i.e. Mariska Hargitay. That's her real name in real life. But she's Law and Order Special Victims Olivia Benson. I was like, she has an organization. So not only is she Olivia Benson on the TV show, but she's Olivia Benson in real life. And so she actually has a foundation that's dedicated to helping victims. And they have something called End Backlogging. They discovered that in 2013, there were 17,000 rape kits in New York that had gone untested. Can you believe that? Do you know how many people are out here just walking free just because DNA wasn't tested? And it's just sitting there because, again, nobody investigated. So after we left the DA's office, we actually went to go to the reading of a playwright based on a true story. And it was based off of a 27-year-old female who was raped after jogging in Prospect Park. And as she puts it, I have had the misfortune of being raped twice. Once at the park and again in the media. Although she had severe bruising, although she had semen inside of her, on her panties, the police officers did not believe her. So much so that the police officers told the media that they didn't believe her, provided false information to the media, and several articles were written about how she was a liar. They also used her lesbianism and her being African American as a way to discredit her story. 2 days after Jane Doe reported her assault, the Daily News came out with an article titled "Rape Hoax, the Real Crime." In it, they stated, they, the cops, believe they're being lied to. It is an outrageous story, really. The woman, who was Black and 27 years old, describes herself as a social activist. All we really know about her is that she has an active imagination. She is supposed to appear at a gay and lesbian rally this weekend to protest crime. She promised yesterday to deliver a first-person speech on her own rape. But last night, everyone who heard the woman's story about the alleged rape, who probably will end up being arrested herself, invented the crime. The description was her invention. In other articles like "I'm right, but that's no reason to cheer," and "When being right is no cause for joy," McClary makes claims that the lab was wrong and that there was no semen found. But in fact, that was a lie. Semen was found inside Jane Doe and in her panties. And McClary later admitted that he never read the police, lab, or hospital reports. In fact, he never actually contacted the victim or witnesses. And even after police made a public apology to Jane Doe, he still continued to make lies in articles, like No Easy Task Exposing a Lie, where he says, how can the cops in Brooklyn, for example, prove that this week's hoaxer wasn't raped the other night in Prospect Park? They know she lied, but they're letting her fade away, worried that genuine victims might not come forward. They lied on this woman and prevented her from receiving justice. How would you feel to be raped by a stranger and they're raped again by the media? Would you want to come out and tell your story? You know, it's hard enough even talking about what happened to you, but this is part of the reason why a lot of victims don't even say anything, because they're made to believe that they're wrong. And although it was proven that she wasn't a liar, the police commissioner did a public apology. She actually ended up suing the Daily News and won, because the information that they were providing was all lies. But again, that was provided by the cops that were in a special victims unit. It wasn't until about 25 years later that she received justice. They actually tested, finally, I don't know what made them. Well, actually, I do. Y'all gotta read the article or watch the playwright, because it's actually very intense. It wasn't until they tested the semen on the panties that was still there that they traced it back to the rapist, who was already in prison for raping and doing way more to other victims. But isn't that crazy, though? When you really think about it, if they would have convicted this guy, maybe there wouldn't be other victims. When people say, why didn't you say anything when it happened? Or will victims come years later? That's part of the reason why. Because you have strangers, you have to have your own family members that don't even believe you. You have aunts and uncles that are touching their kids, and then you go tell your mom, oh, he didn't do that, your boyfriend, he didn't do that. They don't believe you. But imagine having the whole world call you a liar. My assault took place 2015. It wasn't until 2023 that I actually felt healed from my assault. It took about 7 years. Because we were only allotted about 10 minutes or so to say our speech, I wasn't able to really tell the whole story of what really happened to me. When I woke up,